When it comes to calisthenics and bodyweight strength, arguably one of the best pushing movements is the dip. Today I'm going to show you how to train it correctly. We're going to look at the best progressions you need to achieve the skill, and a couple of ways how we can progress it once you've got the skill and you want to take it further. Number one, what's the prerequisite? What do we need before we start working on the dip? There's two main movements that I would work on. So a good strong toe push-up. So coming all the way down, chest touching the floor, and then pushing back up as one segment. Making sure you can start in a very strong position with straight arms, hold at the bottom for a couple of seconds and push back up. 5 to 10 reps of those. A really good place to be to add the dip in. And while you're working on that strength prerequisite of the push-up, you could also be working on the top support. Now the top support is when we hold in this position. So shoulders back and down, chest open, arms by our side, and then come into that position, ideally with toes off the floor. If it looks like this, it's to collapse. We want to push the shoulders back and down, have the chest open, and if needed, we can have light toe assist. And I'll be looking to build that up to a comfortable 10 to 20 seconds. We also want to look at the bottom of the dip position. So exactly the same thing. We want a support position, but it's at the bent arm, bottom of the dip. So I'm going to take the chest forwards like this, arms are into my side. This one's a little bit harder to find the sweet spot, but if you keep your toes on the floor very, very light, you can play with going forwards and backwards, and then you should be able to find a position where my torso is facing down and my weight distribution is correct across the base of the support, which is the hands, which allows me to lift, ideally, both feet up in the air. But same as the top support, we can have light toe assist if we need to, but ideally build this up to 10 to 20 seconds without the toe assist. Then if we have the strength from the push-ups, the top support position, the bottom support position, we can start to explore the pathway. So the pathway is from that top support to the bottom support as slow as possible. Now obviously that's just the down only or the eccentric phase, but ideally we want to build that first with control. And if you drop through that movement, the best way you can do it is just give yourself a very light toe assist. If you have high bars like this but you can still reach the floor, you can use a toe assist below you, or if you have a setup that's higher, you could put a box behind you of the correct height that allows you just to have tiptoe assist, still from that top support down to that bottom position, and feel like you can control the bottom hold, ideally lift the toes up. Once we have that top position down, we have the bottom position, and we have the slow pathway coming down through an eccentric, so the down only, we can start to think about going back up. Now one way of doing it is to come down from that top support to the bottom support, use a slight toe assist to jump yourself back up, so you're still working the eccentrics but having a little bit of assistance to just jump through that concentric. Now the downside of that is that you're not getting really good time under tension on the way back up, because you're skipping a big part of it and it's really overusing the legs. So we could just use toe assist throughout the full movement, so as needed on the eccentric, ideally all the way down by yourself, and then just a slight toe assist, take some weight out of it to come back up. We could obviously use the floor one or have the feet on the box. The other option is to have a spot for someone like this, so they put their hands on your shins and go with you through the movement. You could also use a partial range. Now with the partial range, what you need to make sure that you're doing is you're also getting the full range through the eccentric. So you could start in the top position, you could come down halfway, back up, and then follow that with a full eccentric. That way you're getting partial range concentric, so the up, and a full range eccentric on the way down. And then over time, you just slowly increase that range of motion on the concentric. Now, depending on your setup, you can also use a band assist. So I could put the band between these two bars. The shorter the band or the thicker the band, the easier it's going to be. And then I kneel on the band to make sure you're in that top support and make sure you're getting all the way to the bottom. But that little bit of help from the band now will push me back out of the hardest position, and then I can do repetitions there. And then over time, we just slowly decrease the assistance until we can achieve the full repetition. Now, one way of doing it, if you want to increase your repetitions, is you do max reps without assistance. So say that's 1, 2, but you can't get a third rep, and then you use the assistance again, whether it's the toe assist or the band, to get 3, 4, 5 repetitions. And then over time, you just do more reps without the assistance until you can do all 5 cleanly by yourself. When you can get sets of 5+ repetitions, I'd recommend that we either go to a different exercise. So it could be working towards something like a handstand push-up, and then you'd move away from the dips to pike push-ups or a different handstand push-up variation. Or if you want to progress the dip further, we could go to a weighted dip or something like a tiger bend dip, which carries over really nicely to a muscle up. Now, the way I prefer to do the weighted dips is either using a plate or a kettlebell. Ideally you want to have a good range so you can progressively make it heavier and heavier. Make a loop out of something like a ring strap. Now I'm personally going to use the kettlebell. These are the same weights, but because of the height, I will bottom this out onto the floor. With a kettlebell, I can keep it up higher and it won't touch the floor. So I loop the band through and around, and then I step into the gap, hang it off the hips, and then don't swing when you get into the top position. All the way down, making sure you're getting that full range of motion, and then back up again. Now that did just touch the floor, so I need to make that a little bit shorter if I'm going to do reps there. Now another great progression is instead of using the P-bars, you move over to rings. Now rings are really good. Exactly the same progressions count, but then you have the instability of the rings. But a great progression on the P-bars is to go towards the Russian dip or the tiger bend movement. So what we do with this one is we get to the bottom of the dip, then we slowly go backwards, taking the elbows to touch, back again to the bottom of the dip, and back out again. Now that one's really about weight distribution. So when your elbows go backwards, you don't want to have your weight going with your elbows because you'll fall back like this and you won't be able to get back. You want to keep as much weight forwards, touch the elbows, come back again. So practicing that with the toe assist is really good, as long as you're trying to keep as much weight forwards as you can, or you can go partial range. So you can put something on the hair as a target, like a yoga block, tie that on there, and then just do a partial range. You come down, touch the block, come back up, and then you just slowly decrease the height of the block. Moving it away from you as well works. You could also add components to it. So you could do something like an L-sit in the top support position, do the dip, come back up, go into the L-sit again, and back down. That's obviously going to make your core work a little bit harder, or it just adds in a different element that's going to fatigue the movement. If you're after help with your training, check out my app or my website. Links are down in the description. Thumbs up and subscribe, appreciate it, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Thanks, guys.